Fireworks at the White House during El Salvador President Bukele's visit between President Trump and CNN. The arsonist who tried to murder Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania is arrested, and Harvard University announces it will continue breaking civil rights laws. I'm Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Tax Day, April 15th, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Yesterday, President Trump and President Bukele of El Salvador met at the White House to discuss their partnership over the housing of criminal illegal aliens, many gang members of MS-13, the Sinaloa cartel, and Venezuelan Tren de Aragua, designated terror organizations by the State Department. Sparks began to fly, not in disagreement between the two world leaders, but when Caitlin Collins of CNN asked a leading question about Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You know, you have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
President Trump.
CNN anchor Dana Bash quickly cut away from the meeting to defend CNN.
We have heard a lot of bits of information, a lot of news nuggets that we want to definitely focus on, a lot of some misinformation as well. But we want to digest all of this right now with our terrific panel here and our reporters. Jeff Zeleny, I want to start with you. You are at the White House. Before I get to you, I just want to say, for the record, since we heard President Trump say in the Oval Office that CNN hates our country. CNN does not hate our country. That should go without saying. I've been here for 32 years, and I see a rhetorical device in him trying to say such a thing. That said, I want to focus on the news that we heard.
Now, the Supreme Court did not rule that Garcia had to be returned to the United States, as many, including those over at CNN, have suggested, but instead ruled 9-0 that the federal government had to offer the opportunity to effectuate a judicial hearing on Garcia's MS-13 status. Trump did ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to clarify.
I support it. Go ahead. Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CNN. Low-rated. Which one is that?
The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
Well, let me ask Pam. Would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him?
And you are doing a great job. Thank you, Pam. Stephen Miller, wait a minute. Could you just also respond to that question? Because, you know, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So we had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised with the Supreme Court.
President Bukele was also asked to clarify on the situation and what he could and could not do.
¿Usted lo liberaría,
Presidente
Bukele? Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's always
how can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you could release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
They'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
There's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
Cody Balmer, a self-described socialist, was arrested by Pennsylvania authorities yesterday for the alleged arson of the governor's residence of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
We have, as the colonel indicated, Cody Balmer is in custody. We are preparing a criminal complaint to charge him. This is not a record yet, but the charges will include attempted murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, and aggravated assault against an enumerated person. These are all very serious charges. As with any charges, the defendant is presumed innocent. We will file those charges within the next several hours, and we will include a probable cause affidavit which will detail the basis for this arrest. I can't give you a lot of details because it won't be of record. I can only give you the charges, but the criminal complaint and the affidavit will detail that further this very day.
While, of course, the police have not concluded with their investigation, the attack did take place during the Jewish holiday of Passover, the Jewish holiday celebrated by Governor Josh Shapiro and his family. That was not the only arrest of an individual in the process of attempting to commit serious political violence and terror. A Wisconsin teen allegedly murdered his mother and stepfather in most grotesque fashion to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary, or so said the Wisconsin teen, in order to kill President Trump and overthrow the U.S. government. Federal authorities released particular court documents of an individual 17 years old, we're not going to name him, charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of hiding corpses. These documents, allegedly written by the teen and reviewed by the FBI, called for the assassination of Trump and the start of a revolution to, quote, save the white race, along with other neo-Nazi and pro-Hitler rhetoric. And President Alan Garber at Harvard University released a statement pledging to stand against the Trump administration and what he called demands targeting ideological views, then called on other private universities to stand against Trump. Of course, private here has to be in quotes because the university receives substantial billions in federal funding every year. The demands, as Harvard describes, are a series of requirements to receive federal funding. The requirements? To abolish discriminatory hiring and admission standards, which penalize students for being white, Asian, or Jewish in the admissions processes, and penalize faculty who aren't LGBTQ+, and or black in performance and promotion review. Additionally, the Trump administration asked that Harvard follow the Clery Act of 1990 and civil rights laws, which forbid covering up anti-Semitic and other racially motivated crimes on campus. Harvard found these terms, that would be the terms of the U.S. law, unacceptable. And so in response, the Trump administration announced late yesterday evening that $2.2 billion in federal funding would be frozen immediately. President Alan Garber is Harvard's latest president, following Claudine Gay, who plagiarized most of her academic work and championed discriminatory policies at the university. Before you go, check out the description to make sure you're subscribed to the Tony Kinnett Cast, and join us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern for new information on the military zone being created against our border with Mexico and the latest on district judges filing nationwide injunctions. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's Top News in 10. Take care.